How to make a mixtape.
Now, the making of a good compilation tape is a very subtle art, many do's and don'ts. First of all, you're using someone else's poetry to express how you feel. This is a delicate thing. You gotta kick it off with a killer, grab attention. Then you gotta take it up a notch. But you don't want to blow your wad, so then you gotta cool it off a notch. And there are a lot of rules.
What have you been doing? How is your new car?
New car's great.
Yeah. Have you taken any cute road trips?
Just like work trips. Like I've been in North
cool
Carolina and no, nothing cool. I don't.
What's your favorite? Do you get excited for road trips? This is not the theme of the mixtape. Do you get excited?
It's not
for
a road trip theme. I like road trips. I like being in the car, if that's what you mean.
Yeah.
I don't know the last time I was like super excited ahead of time necessarily, but I do enjoy my time on road trips alone or with people. Either way.
I just drove to Minnesota, Boundary Waters of Minnesota, to go fishing with my dad. And driving through Wisconsin, there's a gas station called Quick Trip, KWIK. And it's another important stop in my life for a trip that I take with some buddies, like in September when we go up into Wisconsin to play disc golf in the woods together. And it wasn't uncommon for me to stop at like 4 or 5 of them along the way and get excited about the hot foods, hot eats at the Quick Trips. Yeah.
I mean, planning in my older age, I've become a lot more unplanned. I've kind of just let the road take me, so to speak. Yeah.
Man,
just
that could be your tagline. I let the road take me.
I used to always at least plan like some spots to eat on road trips, something to look forward to, you know?
Yeah. But you got Wawa.
We got Wawa and Sheetz here.
I don't know what Sheetz
both.
is. What
Sheetz is like Wawa for a different territory, but they overlap here. So Sheetz is like Pennsylvania, and I don't know the various territories. I know Wawa is like East Coast and goes up to like Jersey and stuff, and Sheetz is in like Pennsylvania and Ohio.
I've only heard the lore of Wawa. Is it all it's cracked up to be?
Have you ever been to a Buc-ee's?
No, but I've been to a Wally's.
Okay, because it's nothing compared to Buc-ee's. So I was going to be like, they're totally different things, totally different stratosphere. Wawa and Sheetz are pretty traditional gas stations. They're just kept really nice, and they have made to order food that's decent. So like when I used to tour on bands, we always liked when we would go to the East Coast because you could go to Sheetz or Wawa and get like a sub for like $4. It's more than that now, but at the time, like $4. And you could load it, and like that would be like 2 meals for you. But people kind of go crazy for the food there.
But have you been to a Buc-ee's?
I've been to a Buc-ee's, yeah.
Was it all it was hyped up to be?
It's weird. It's really clean. I didn't even go to one of the biggest ones, and there were still more gas pumps than. It was insane. There was like enough gas pumps for like 12 gas stations, and hot food, fresh food, all kinds of crazy stuff. It's like the gift shop section or whatever you would call it is like the size of like 3 like little local stores in like a downtown area of a town.
But it's like the wackiest shit. It's like pajama pants.
Yeah, well, it's all kinds of stuff. You have until you go, you can't imagine what they have. They have stuff you would never ever think of having at a gas station, truck stop, whatever they identify themselves as.
There's a place in Pontiac, Illinois called Wally's. That's a similar situation, like, 96 gas pumps, but like there's a camper inside. There's a raccoon playing the banjo.
Oh, love it. Like an animatronic one. I like that.
Yeah, he's in like a case, and he's like it's a whole like a woodsy band of like barn animal or
like a Showbiz Pizza thing, like a Rockfire Explosion type
deal.
Have
you ever watched like some of the lore around those things? Like
there's a documentary about it and stuff. Yeah, like it's wild. I remember going to Showbiz Pizzas when I was a kid. Before
Showbiz was the shit.
Because I guess I've since watched the documentaries. Chuck E. Cheese was first. Showbiz split off.
Yeah. But
then they kind of like got big in different territories. So Showbiz Pizza was where in Indiana, and then
Showbiz was the shit.
Chuck E. Cheese came in, but yeah, man, the bear from Rockafire Explosion and like now I get it mixed up too. It was like a chicken.
Yeah.
And like a drunk dog in a barrel.
There was somebody that bought all of the animatronics, and I think that they they made them all play Love in This Club by Usher.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That was a big one. And then I think, what was it, Drake or somebody did an actual like official music video with that guy programming stuff. Shit. Yeah, I forget who it was. Maybe it probably wasn't Drake, but well, hey, this is How to Make a Mixtape podcast. I'm Roderick. You're Don. How's it going, bud?
Good, buddy. How are you?
I wanted to bring something up real quick.
Yeah.
It
sounds heavy. Are you going to get heavy?
Heavy and then light. So
okay.
I was talking to somebody and they reminded me that June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month.
Okay.
And we're both men.
Yeah.
We both have mentals in our heads. Yeah. It just felt like a good thing to bring up because I feel like there's still a stigma around men's mental health. And I have a lot of friends who are going through or have been going through heavy stuff in the past few years, just like half the world has gone through. And it just felt like a thing I wanted to bring up and be like, hey, look out for yourself out there, everybody. And if music helps you, this is a music podcast. So if music helps you, lean into it, lean into the music. I've been keeping my mental health prioritized by putting a little dirt under my pillow at night.
Yeah.
For the dirt man.
Yeah.
Same with you, I believe. Correct?
I would like to, at this point, not put any more dirt under my pillow for the dirt man. It's caused substantial arguments in my life.
That's it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's caused for real arguments. Put a little dirt under the pillow for the dirt man. It has definitely caused arguments.
Dude, I can't get the song out of my head. Like, I'm
weeks.
showing it to people. It's been weeks, and I'm like showing it to people. I'm singing it. I'm waking up in the morning with it stuck in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Keep a little dirt under my pillow for the dirt man, in case he comes to town. What?
Like, I'm wondering if it's some kind of psyops thing from the government, and Carter Vale is a plant. And
it would make sense that was the case.
Yeah. If you're listening, you don't know what we're talking about. That's insane to me because it's everywhere. But check out the song Dirt Man by Carter Vale
on Instagram.
Oh my God, dude.
I have
legitimately though, if I'm feeling down, I just go searching for like versions of it or covers of it or whatever. It cheers me up.
That's fair.
It does something to like your endorphins. It's something about that song. I guess like serotonin release.
Yeah. He's got a real buttery voice too.
That's nice.
I have big Instagram news.
What's that?
Waka mattress. Are you familiar?
I'm not, but you got me on the edge of my seat.
Neither have I, but they've started to follow us.
No
engagement yet. They're new.
Okay.
They're only following 77 people, and How to Make a Mixtape is one of them. They're also following Casper, which obviously we're kind of going hard after Casper, but not getting anything back.
Waka, like Fozzie Bear?
Yeah, Waka mattress. And then there's also Weltbet. Hold on, none of this is in English. Well, let me load the trends. Healthy Sleep Through Research, discovering the science of healthy sleep with us. They're from another country, though. All of their posts are not in English, but
I think you tagging Casper and everything we post is getting us some other followers, some other sleep adjacent
whatever it takes.
Followers.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah. Update on my Casper mattress it's much better. I've adjusted.
Oh, thank
goodness.
my
sleep's become much better. I do think I just went through a period of adjustment.
I was concerned.
Yeah, it's been good. I've had some good night's sleep. I had a great night's sleep last night. Just laid down, passed out, good stuff. Feeling refreshed. Yeah, feeling good, feeling refreshed, ready to talk music.
This is a fun theme. It's very subjective.
Oh, completely subjective. I had a blast with this. And
we had any objective themes, or are they all subjective?
Music's is all subjective.
Okay. This one felt more subjective than normal.
There's
we're going to have to talk about a criteria. Like
there's potentially a technical aspect to this one that we're not qualified to judge. And so that's why it just felt completely subjective to us.
I'm not, but our guest is.
I felt vindicated because 3 of my immediate thoughts that I wrote down and started listening to and picking songs from, when I went to do research, other people very much agreed with me on the interwebs.
No shit. Oh,
so I was like, okay. I'm on the right track here. So
okay.
This one came to me quick. I like those episodes.
It came to me quick as well. This one, I wouldn't say it was easy, but I would say this one came to me pretty quick as well. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling ready to start this shit. You want to start this shit?
I'm ready to get into it. Absolutely.
Right. Any other updates that we need to give the few listeners?
We're still waiting on merch.
I know. I'm gonna get Ryan Fancher. We're gonna get merch done this week.
We're out of stickers. We gave them all out.
Oh, stickers are on their way. Little Gimmick stickers are on their way. I have more coming.
Sweet. Well,
Okay, cool.
That's all I got. So
all right, let's do the damn thing.
Let's do the thing.
Yeah.
All right, how you want to do this?
Okay, we'll say the official sticker sponsor of How to Make a Mixtape podcast is Little Gimmicks. Little Gimmick stickers, pure quality, 100% vinyl stickers made by one big dummy in the Midwest. Mm-hmm. Great quality stickers, great quality customer service. If you need stickers, contact at Little Gimmicks on Instagram. If you mention the How to Make a Mixtape podcast, you get 10% off, and it will be perfect advertisement for your small business. Big things from Little Gimmicks. Shit, if they don't use that tagline, if they don't use that, they've dropped the ball. Yeah. Big things from Little Gimmicks.
Big things from Little Gimmicks. That's good. It's at little.gimmicks on Instagram.
No shit. Did they add a dot, or has there always been a dot?
It's always been a dot.
Oh, shit. Sorry. My bad. All right. At little.gimmicks. Big things from Little Gimmicks.
Back to the show.
How to make a mixtape.
I'm not going to say the most credentialed guest because I don't want to alienate any other guests. Every guest has their own credentials that they contribute. I mean, for Christ's sake, Dr. PCF is a doctor, but
you guys have had awesome guests on.
Tom and I met through.
Are you Tom the whole time?
I don't know. We'll see how things go. Met through. We didn't meet as janitors. We met prior to being janitors.
Yeah, way prior. Well,
we were janitors.
Prior, but
we were janitors together at good old Orland Square Mall in Orland Park, Illinois. Played in bands together for a long time. Played in a bunch of bands, played in some good bands, played in some bad bands. Mm-hmm. And then Tim got the production bug and got his first 4-track. I might remember. Did you buy it used or did you buy it from Guitar Center?
Are you talking about the tape 4-track?
Yep.
Yeah. I don't even know where that came from. I don't remember.
Maybe Radio Shack in the mall?
Possibly. I honestly, that's a good question. I don't remember where my first 4-track came from. Was it Tascam MK42 or whatever, like the 4-track that like everyone had?
Yep.
And then I progressed from that, which you like experienced a lot of, which I like.
Yeah. I remember the first traveling Pro Tools rig.
Even before that, dude. Don't you remember the mini disc 4-track?
Yep. There's been a long lineage of different recording devices for Tim once he got the recording bug.
Donnie and I recorded a ton of stuff together. We used to play on your roof. Mm-hmm. With Donnie and I, it's like Donnie and I were like dating. We'd grab our acoustic guitars and like crawl out the window of his bedroom and like sit on the roof of his house and play like Bob Marley covers and stuff.
Yeah. As young teens do.
That was in the 90s.
Yeah.
That was like late 90s.
I mean, you guys are speaking my language though. Like my buddy got a Roland like VS 840, I think is what they were. And like, of course we were in a band, so we would record real stuff, but it felt like if we were bored,
recorded real stuff. We were in a band.
No, it was same thing. No, I was about to say, we also recorded a bunch of stupid shit. Like that was like our pastime.
Okay, yeah. All right. Good.
I wasn't knocking you guys. It was me. It was like Saturday night. There's nothing to do. Let's just do some stupid shit and record it because we've got this thing.
Yeah, we do. I might have CDs of that
probably somewhere.
Yeah.
I remember recording prank Jerky Boy style. We would do prank phone calls and record it. Anything. You did that? We would just do anything. Yeah, we totally did that.
You need to find those.
There's somewhere. Yeah. I don't have them.
I would love to hear a Roderick Jerky Boys prank phone call. And then post band stuff, Tim went on to be Tim. You have to give us some of the lineage of JBTV because I don't know enough. Obviously, I know of its history in Chicago.
Yeah,
and like I remember you waited Sunday nights to watch JBTV and watch Jerry, and you know more so the history of that. Give me the history and then give me when you got started.
So Jerry Bryant, which is what the JB and JBTV is, started JBTV in 87. I could be off on that, but sometime in the late 80s, like right around the same time that MTV was starting. And he started this show that was very like Wayne's World-y. Like he looks just like Jerry Garcia. And he's just this goofy, like stoner dude, like who just loves music. And he would just play video. He would just get videos from all the labels. And he just had like a video show, like back when there was Friday night videos, Saturday night videos, all these video shows and things like that. And then he, at one point, probably in the, I don't know, maybe early to mid 90s, he started doing performances in his little studio. I mean, he's had everyone come through, like Jeff Buckley performed in his studio. Yeah, I mean, anyone you can think of.
Rod, if you can, go to the Wikipedia and look at the notable guests of JBTV, and it's alphabetized. I mean, the fucking list is bananas. Like, just to start with the A's, it's like the Afghan Wigs, Against Me, Alkaline Trio, Andrew WK, Anti-Flag. Like, I mean, it was huge. It was massive in Chicago.
What was cool is it was like, that was all when these bands were just starting. Like, there was an interview with Green Day, like Fall Out Boy, like all these bands that like were just, this was like the first television thing they ever did kind of situation. And Jerry always kind of prides himself on that. Like, oh, I had him first, which is true. But he started doing these performances. And so there's a lot of like footage of like really poor, like the audio wasn't bad actually, but like the video production was just kind of like, it was also just very 90s looking the way it was set up and everything. But long story short, basically he stopped doing that. And one of the first bands that I worked with called Bite the Hand, the drummer reached out to Jerry. He was a huge JBTV fan. And he was like, hey, you don't ever do these live performances. We want to play on the show. And Jerry's like, well, I don't have an audio engineer here anymore. And they're like, we have our own audio engineer, because I was working on the record at the time. He's like, well, I don't have a way to record them though, because I don't really have a studio set up. And at the time, Donnie was kind of getting to it, as I built out a mobile Pro Tools rig before everyone and their mother had Pro Tools, and before Pro Tools can even be on a laptop. So basically I was able to bring that rig to JBTV, and Jerry got a crew together with like all these different cameras and shot, it filmed Bite the Hand playing. And then my band, which at the time was a band called So Far, we played as well. So I recorded it and mixed it and everything. And then I gave it to Jerry, and he was like, this sounds phenomenal. Like, I want to start doing these shoots again. Like, how do I, so that's kind of how it all started. And then I ended up being there we built a new studio a few years down the road, and then started to really kind of ramp up the level of bands that were coming in again. And I worked with 300 and some bands, and I still have all the audio masters actually. Yeah, that's kind of where I cut my teeth, and I like learned everything I know. And I was there for almost 10 years. I think about 8 years I was there. There's been generations. There was a generation after me that came in and did things. And unfortunately, Jerry's studio got repossessed a few years back, but he's still doing things in his condo, more Wayne's World style kind of thing again, just him. But he's still, so he's a legacy in Chicago. Like, that's awesome. People either never heard of Jerry, never heard of JBTV, or they're like, oh my God, he's a holy grail of, so it was a really cool time working there. And, so I was the chief audio engineer and stage manager while I was there.
Is he doing it on like public access, or is it on like YouTube?
There's this network called WJYS in Tinley Park. It's like a Christian network, but he's also I think he's streaming different ways as well. I'm not sure exactly what he's been up to lately, but I know he's still doing stuff.
That's awesome.
You gotta look up Jerry. Jerry's he's a great looking guy.
Yeah, I just
looks just like Jerry Garcia.
He does.
But yeah, I mean, like, I remember as the transition of all this was happening, as Tim started all this live production stuff, the docket of bands that Tim was working with was just getting bigger and bigger, and the connections that he was creating were just getting fucking huge. So it was awesome to watch his experiences grow within something. He went on to become a fucking teacher and was teaching live production, which was awesome. So I guess all of that production shit brings us to the theme.
Yeah.
So Tom, what's the theme of today's podcast?
The theme is perfect productions.
So before we got started, Rod and I were talking about how subjective this is for Rod and I with limited knowledge, but with your knowledge, I guess when we get into it, I'm excited to hear what you have to say creates for perfect production versus what Rod has and I have to say for perfect production.
Absolutely. The first chunk of my notes is what makes production subjective, and then what is some things that we can talk about that are actually objective that really do make a recording sound great, a production sound great. So.
Dang, that's fucking fantastic. Roderick, do you want to give us the guidelines of the mixtape?
I sure do. Before I get into this, though, make sure, if you haven't already, that you're following the podcast. We're really bad about mentioning that, Donnie.
What are we up to?
Make sure you follow the podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube. Yet? Make sure you tell your friends about it. We have a lot of listeners.
We do have a lot of listeners.
Much fewer subscribers and followers. I think that's how it goes. But
yeah, still 5 stars.
Still 5 stars with more and more reviews. So please leave a review. But yeah, to get this kicked off, I'm going to read the guidelines, the mixtape guidelines based on high fidelity. So here we go. Number 1, you got to have a killer opening track that grabs the listener's attention. 2, each song should flow smoothly into the next, creating a seamless listening experience. 3, the mixtape should have a good balance of different genres, tempos, and moods. Variety keeps things interesting. 4, the mixtape should tell a story or convey a specific emotion. It should take the listener on a journey. 5, it can't be too obvious, but can't be too obscure either, unless that's the theme. 6, you can't double up on songs by the same artist. And 7, the closing track should leave a lasting impression and make the listener crave more. So, Tim, do you want to go first, second, or third?
You know, originally originally I was like, this is a no-brainer. I'm going first. But actually, this was really hard. I feel like I want to sit back and let you guys go first, and just to kind of see which direction you guys go.
So you're gonna go third then? You're gonna go third? All right.
Does that mean it's you?
That means it's me. That means I'm first. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's kick this bitch off.
So I'm gonna go with the most recent one first. And that's going to be Give Life Back to Music by Daft Punk.
Damn, you should have gone first.
What's up? You should have gone first. Is that what you said?
Actually, I picked a different song, but I have something off that album for sure.
That was the one that was hardest to decide of a song off that album, because you could pick any song off that album. I, in the end, decided to go with just the first track because it feels like a thesis for the rest of the album. It kicks off with the instantly recognizable like live perform. It doesn't sound Daft Punk right off the bat. It sounds like something slightly different, like it's live musicians playing, and then they do get into like the vocoder vocals, like the Daft Punk robot sound, and like it just mashes it all up. And it's like also the whole kind of explaining what that album's going to be about, which is like their way of giving back to the music that like created them by making this like disco type funk inspired music, but also doing it in their own way. And then, you know, I watched a bunch of videos on how they produce this, and it's wild. Like they basically still made a record using samples, but they recorded all the samples live. So instead of going back and crate digging and finding this stuff, they were like, hey, Nile Rodgers, we love you. We worship you. You know, come in and play a bunch of guitar riffs, come in and play a bunch of guitar parts. And then they took those and then they chopped them, sampled them, built a song out of them. And they did that with all the instrumentation. And that's wild. Like that is it's, you know.
Did you see how long they took making this record?
I didn't see a time, but I saw $.
3 years.
3 years, man, that's insane. Well,
and then the dollar amount.
I watched an interview with one of the drummers that they brought in, and I forget his name. He's also very famous. Like he drummed for Bowie and a bunch of people. But he was saying that he would just be in there for days, just drumming. Like just trying different patterns, different beats. Like he would do one and they would just jam for a while. And they'd be like, maybe try something like this. And he was like, I had no idea what I was playing. Like we weren't learning songs. Yeah. We were just playing stuff. And then they went back later and had to build songs out of all this, which is wild. I saw it cost over $1 million. Yeah. It was like the production budget.
Out of Daft Punk's pocket. Like this was their own. And my understanding, this is their fourth and final album. Like they said, this is it. We're done. And let's do it. Let's do it right. And they spent 3 years. They were in 2 different countries, like 4 different studios. And yeah. So, okay. So my question to you then, Rod, is what pulled your ear toward what made you think this is a perfect production? And then you were vindicated by seeing the accolades and stuff that the album had, Grammy Awards, so on and so forth.
It's a couple things. I remember when this came out, because I was already a Daft Punk fan. I was like a dance music. You know, when this came out, I was probably going to get this record anyway. But I remember both thinking it sounded incredible when it came out. But I also remember people making a big deal out of the production at the time. Like I remember when this came out, people were like, this is one of the best sounding records ever, or at least of the last like 10 years. Right. And like, I remember those conversations happening then, and it's always stuck in my brain. And when I listen to this now, I can't help but almost listen to it a little, like try to like pick apart the microscopic things in it, because it's just been a part of how I listen to this album. And it pays off because there's so much layering and there's so much complexity, you know, and it sounds different on headphones than it does through your speakers and all these different things that you pick up. It's so cool.
Yeah. I've never been a huge Daft Punk fan, and like I honestly don't even care for most of this album from a musical standpoint. Like I'm not like, ooh, I want to put on this album. For me, it's like when I want ear candy, like I want the bass to feel like super rich and on my sound system, and I want to be. There's just this like openness, this big airiness to it, and yeah, it's just they didn't over compress it. You know, it's the loudness wars thing started in like the late '90s, early 2000s, and even though they've tried to police it a bit, it's still an issue. Like people just over compress music and mastering, and they didn't do this with this record, so it just breathes. And I think that, you know, maybe this is a good time to touch on some more objective things with production, because this has a lot of it. Like it's, you know, like instrumentation should have a purpose in a song. Like you don't just put a guitar track in here because you want to. Like there should be a purpose as to why this is it a chord support instrument? Is it a melody? So there's just something about just the way so my track was going to be Within, which is the one that starts with a really beautiful piano. Because first of all, I think it's like possibly like the most beautiful piano recording I've ever heard. Like it just sounds so good. And then it just kind of, that's the intro. And then the Fender Rhodes comes in, and just kind of like the best way I can describe it is it just like carries you very softly into the first verse. And it's just the way it's produced and mixed. And then the drums, like you mentioned, the drummer, I put a bunch of names down here, but I can't remember which was it Chili Gonzalez? Is that the drummer?
Yeah. Yeah. He's
just playing. So have you guys seen the documentary, the Sound City documentary, the Dave Grohl?
Yep. About the soundboard.
Yeah. And the whole documentary about Sound City and everything. And there's a section of that documentary where they talk about feel in music and how it's this magical, that song just has so much feel, like the way the drummer, I mean, like you said, I mean, he actually recorded it not even knowing what it was going to be on, but that's clearly someone was producing and telling him, hey, I want this to be very like open and dynamic and just, you know, very swingy. And so, and then another thing is like, I feel like really well produced tracks don't discriminate sound systems. Like I can play Daft Punk on my phone and it's going to sound great in its own way. I can play it in my car, it's going to sound great. I can play it in my living room, it's going to sound great. Like you said, maybe it sounds a little bit different on different playback systems, but it just sounds good everywhere. And not every production has that, you know?
Yeah. I was thinking, and this is probably where some of the subjectivity comes into, but I was trying to find things that were like, because production is, you know, there's producers obviously, but when we're talking about the production of music, there's so much involved. There's the songwriting, the performance, the engineering of it, the actual like producer involvement, which can be almost nothing or can be what makes the song. And there's all these things. And it felt like this whole album, and I know this is a mixtape podcast where we pick a song, but this whole album has all of it. Like the whole album tells a story from top to bottom based on the theme of the music, of the lyrics. If it's a song with vocals, like there's this whole thing they're doing, but there's a theme of this record of like what brought them up in music. And then they're also passing on their own contribution to music. Like from what I've heard, they've talked about some of the stuff on this record. They wanted to play it live because they want future artists to sample them the way they sampled other artists. And they wanted to put something out there that was new and original completely to be sampled and be put into dance music and stuff. I thought that was cool. And like
big, heavy opener.
Yeah, well, this is one of those too where, like I said, I felt vindicated is the wrong word, but I felt like justified. Thank you. That's a better word. With that said, there's a ton of stuff like on YouTube about the production of this. Like if people are interested, they can watch hours of interviews and footage about this because it's become like a studied record in the kind of engineering and production world. So
love that, Rod. Great opener, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go The Killers, When We Were Young. When You Were Young. Sorry.
Watch it now, here he comes. He doesn't look a thing like Jesus, but he talks like a gentleman, like you imagine when you were young.
I think that that's one of those songs that, Tim, like you use that example where the song has everything breathes. You can hear everything independently and also together in the composition of the song and the production of this one. And I think that, again, and I'm mostly talking out of my ass because, again, a lot of this is just my feelings. Like I don't have any credentials in terms of beyond the conversations that we've had 20 years ago around what it takes to make something sound good. But with this song, I just think that the way that it's kind of put together, the way that the song is written, and then the way that the production sounds within that song is just really well done. So Flood was the producer of this one, and just some of the shit that like if you look at the genre of music that he consistently has produced, like in the bands that he's produced, and you go back and listen to some of that other shit, I think that production, you can see when a producer puts their stamp on something, and I think that he does a great job with that. I just think the song sounds fucking great.
They have a great bass sound. That's one of the places I go with bands. Like I don't like when I can't hear the bass or it doesn't have some. Are you a bass player? Yeah. And, you know, if I'm straining to even hear what the bass is doing, I'm like, what? Come on! Like it's got to, you know, it's got to do more than just fill out the low end of the song. It's got to add something. They have a great bass sound and good bass parts too. I'm not the biggest Killers fan, but like their hits are, I'm not either. Are total earworms. I mean, they're well written rock songs. You know, they're really well done.
This was just one of those songs that I just think sounds so fucking good, and it's so crazy to go back and look at this dude's like production lineage. You know, fucking Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, which is fucking Pretty Hate Machine. Like some of that stuff is just huge. You know, like where those are such massive albums at the time, and I think even moving into like the 2000s when he did this album. Again, like the Killers are fucking huge, and I think that he did a good job kind of carrying post grunge lineage into this stuff here. So I think it just sounds really good.
Sweet. So, yeah, I saw the Killers live once, and I left.
Oh, so is that good?
It wasn't. It was okay. They were. I don't know them that well, so I didn't know that many of the songs. But they also just didn't sound great. And it was at a festival, and everybody else that day sounded good enough. You know, actually, I saw Kendrick Lamar at that festival too, and he wasn't very good at that either. So maybe the sound actually wasn't very good at that. I'm not sure. There's something off, but Killers were closing that night out, and we just kind of dipped.
Well, it's a bummer.
Yeah.
I think it's also worth talking for a second about, just for listeners that it's always kind of this mystery, like what does the producer do, right? Because also
knobs, obviously move sliders. Turns knobs and move sliders. You do the most important stuff.
No, a lot of them don't, though. Well, now I mean,
engineers.
Some of them do. I mean, there's some carryover for sure. But that's what's interesting is like, so when I was teaching, like I had a lot of kids that were coming up in like hip hop and stuff, and where that's all they listened to growing up, and they know a producer is that's the guy or gal that like made the music. Like Dre, as a producer, made the music for Snoop and made the music for Eminem, whatever it may be, when he produced them. You know, where it's different with just about every other genre of music, like country album, rock album, pop album, whatever it may be. Yes, they may be involved in actually writing some of the music and recording and even potentially playing some of it. But for the most part, they're working with I always like to compare them to a director. Like I think a lot of people can wrap their heads around a director easily when it comes to like making movies. Like here's this actor or actress, they're good at what they do, but they need direction. They need this person who can get the performance out of them for this film or this TV show or whatever. It's the same thing with music. Like it's just interesting to talk about like what a producer does, because a lot of people I have no idea what a producer does, you know, and some of these producers, we still don't know what they do until you get to work with them. It's
one of my old bands recorded a record. It was produced by Bill Stevenson he's produced a million punk bands. He was in Black Flag. He's the drummer for the Descendants. He's like, and it was like his basically job was, to your point, he was like, because we were small and we didn't have a ton of money, and he was trying to maximize our studio time. So he was like, my job is to get you guys the best sounding, best thing you can get for the money and the time you have here. So he was bouncing around doing all kinds of stuff. He was doing like little edits. If he felt like he could do that faster than re-recording it, he'd be like, you guys move on. I'm going to just do an edit of that real quick. He would spend time, like he was like, did a little like coaching. If he thought we could have played something slightly better, it was like, try this. It was like a little bit of everything. To your point, it was kind of directing the album, knowing like, you've got this much money, you've got this much time, here's what we've got to get done. And he was just kind of doing whatever he had to do, you know, and I'm sure different producers do different things, but that was my experience with a real producer.
That's awesome.
You know, and then the engineer was doing most of the technical stuff, right?
Yeah,
the twisting the knobs and the pushing the sliders and the setting up the mics and switching the mics. And
most producers work and tend to work with the engineer, like Bruce Swedien and Quincy Jones, you know, like they were a duo, like they did, you know, a lot of the Michael Jackson stuff and everything together. Like Bruce Swedien was the engineer and you know, Quincy Jones was the producer. That was their relationship. And that still exists. I do think there's a lot more crossover these days too, you know, and there's a lot of albums being made in bedrooms these days too.
Yeah.
You know,
true.
still sound great, you know, because the technology has just evolved so much. So,
All right, Tom.
Cool.
First contribution.
All right. Well, my first one was going to be the Daft Punk as well. So I mean, I'm going to have to go to no, and that's okay because that was kind of what I was potentially seeing was going to happen. So I think my first pick then is going to be Finesse, Bruno Mars.
I do love some Bruno Mars.
For a lot of the same reasons.
Joni is so stoked right now.
Yeah.
My mom is so fucking pumped that Bruno Mars is on here.
Hi, Joni. Yeah, it's just that album, 24 Karat Magic, like it's so fucking good. It's like the Daft Punk record where it's just like I put it on in my car and like so I have a 2019 Honda HR-V and like the stock sound system is okay, but it's not good by any means. You put that song in or Daft Punk on it, and it's like sounds like I have this amazing sound system in my car, and it's like I don't hear that with many other records that I play in there. So yeah, it just sounds fantastic, and just the whole like throwback to the 90s. Like this song has that like Belle Biv DeVoe like Poison drum beat and everything going through the whole thing, and
those like horn stabs and like bass stabs and stuff from like the synths or the keyboards or whatever they are. Yeah, like total like Janet Jackson /
and then the chorus dripping with finesse. And there's like that little like woodblock thing that happens that just sounds so unearthly large and cool.
God, I love it when people sing on the podcast. I love it when they sing.
It just sounds so good. I just love this album, this song specifically, but the whole album's really good. Have you guys ever seen Bruno Mars live?
I know he's like 5'1" and he wears high heels when he performs.
I saw him at Lolla 2018, but anyway, yeah, Lolla 2018, and because we were actually going. Well, we were specifically going to see him, but Walk the Moon was actually the direct support on his stage, and we're both Walk the Moon. My wife and I are big Walk the Moon fans too. So like, and Post Malone was playing on the other stage, so like no one was over at Walk the Moon initially. So we got like right up front, and we were like, well, do we just stay here? Because I don't do well with crowds the older I get, but like we're like, well, we can stay here, and we were like maybe like what would be equivalent to like 10 rows back for Bruno Mars, and it's on my top 5 like best concerts of all time. Like it sounded like the album, like it sounded so good. They were doing like Jackson 5 style like dancing and stuff on stage. Like it was awesome. Just amazing, just such an amazing performance, and you know they sounded fantastic. Put on such a great show.
He's doing that like
Silk
Sonic stuff with Anderson Paak, which is so good. It's so good. That stuff's produced really well too. Actually, I wonder if Stereotypes produced that too.
Mm-hmm. Shampoo.
It's just really good stuff.
Yeah.
I love that he found his niche and is just fucking rolling with that shit because he is crushing it in that. Has he put anything? I mean, that Silk Sonic album came out in 2021. So like we're due for some new shit. Fingers crossed. Maybe before the end of the year, new Bruno Mars and new Silk Sonic would be rad. Top 4 Bruno Mars stream songs, over 2 billion streams per top 4 songs. And then the 5th one is 1 billion. Bruno's doing okay. 72 million monthly listeners. Crushing it. Good job, Bruno Mars. Roderick,
over to me, huh? I got to decide what I want to do next.
Why did Tim steal Bruno Mars from you?
He did not. I'm just trying to think. I think I might go to hip hop actually here. So I'm going with Jay Dilla, and I'm going Don't Cry. I don't know if either of you are familiar with Jay Dilla, but even if you're not, you are. I mean, he produced a bunch for De La Soul and Pharcyde, and he worked with Tribe Called Quest some alongside Q-Tip and some of these artists. But he's become, unfortunately, he passed away years ago. He passed away when he was like 32. He had lupus. So he was kind of gone way too early. But I mean, and this isn't hyperbole, there are books written about how he made beats and how he viewed music. I mean, he's become like incredibly influential, and it's become known as Dilla time, the way he would do his patterns. And it was, you talked about feel earlier. It's all about how do you get feel from like a drum machine. And part of it is sometimes he would play it. He would actually play stuff on pads by hand. and not quantize it, just keep it like
Human.
natural, you know?
Yeah.
But sometimes he would program stuff and he found these ways of doing it that felt like it's just a feel. And like you can break it down, and there are videos on YouTube of people breaking down the technical side of it and all these like beat grids and all these things, but that just kind of like takes away the emotion of it. He creates these beats that feel laid back and comforting, and you kind of sink into him. Like he's done stuff with MF Doom. Actually, a lot of MF Doom stuff reminds me of his style. If you guys have listened to that stuff at all, it's like a lot of like, you know, kick drums behind the beat slightly, snare drums slightly in front of the beat. And they create these like slightly off, but like really warm. It's like a hug almost as far as a hip hop beat goes. And you could pick a bunch of his stuff. I wanted to pick some. He put out a couple albums of just his own music, like not producing for other artists. So I wanted to go with one of those. And there's a lot of different songs. This one's off of Donuts, which is the last thing he put out. The rumor is he was still working on this stuff from like his hospital bed. But this song, Don't Cry, it's got this, it kind of illustrates what he does really well. So I'm going to geek out slightly for a second, but I think everybody, including our listeners, will appreciate this. The first like 40 seconds of the song is just a looped sample from an old like soul song, and it's not changed at all. He just takes like I don't know how long, maybe a 10-second clip, and just loops it. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, he chopped up that same sample and rearranged all the kick and snare beats. And then whatever melody and stuff was happening over those kick and snare beats get rearranged with the kick and snare, and he speeds it up too. So the tempo completely changes, and it sounds like a completely different song, but yet the same song, because it's still got the same vibe. It's the samples are still from the same song. It's just this almost like, let me show you what I do, people. I'm just going to play a clip unchanged and then show you how I would change this one clip. And that's the whole song. It's just all sampled from one single source. And it's so good. And it's so cool.
Do you want to know what's really cool about everything that you're saying right now, Rod, is that he does all of that in 1 minute and 59 seconds. That song is less than 2 minutes long.
Yeah, most of his stuff on his solo records is pretty short because there's not a lot of like vocals on it, right? It's kind of the artistry of production and sampling and beat production, and some of it has some vocalists on it, and some of it has some sampled vocals on it, but a lot of his stuff is really short on his solo records. He influenced so much like good underground hip hop, and you know, some mainstream hip hop too, for sure, but a lot of like what I listen to now heavily influenced by this dude. And I thought it fitting to talk about him on a production episode.
That's cool.
That's awesome. No, yeah, I feel that sounds familiar. I feel like I've heard you talk about him on other episodes, maybe just in passing.
Yeah, possibly. You know, if people aren't aware, but they're into hip hop, they need to, you know, go listen to Jay Dilla's stuff. And I think you'll instantly be into it. He might have come up on the Backpacker episode, not as a choice, but like he might have come up in that.
Yeah. Great choice. Good job, Rod.
Thanks, man.
All right. My
Donnie,
next
what you got?
call. I'm going to do Echo and the Bunnymen, Killing Moon.
Killing time, unwillingly mine. Fate up against your will, through the thick and thin.
Oh,
It's a big one, huh?
yeah.
1984. The producer is David Lord. Did produce like Bowie and shit like that. So, but that Echo and the Bunnyman song, like to me, like part of production is we keep saying the feel piece, but like there is no fucking unintentional. I'm sure it was probably intentionally spooky, but man, I almost wonder if I should have saved this for fall when we do the fall season, because this is the most fall song you'll ever hear. But this is a fucking great, spooky, well-produced song, and it feels fucking awesome. And you can put yourself into a position in your life where like you're fucking walking home from somebody's house late at night and it's dark and it's scary and the Killing Moon is playing and it's like, fuck, am I gonna get abducted by aliens right now? Like, is this, and like, you know, it's in Donnie Darko, which adds to that a little bit, but like it is just such a good balance of everything that song is all about. So
When did this come out, Donnie?
1984.
Because it sounds like, and I mean this as a compliment from a production standpoint, it's other than maybe the guitars sounding a little like 80s, like shiny 80s, it sounds like this could have been like a late 60s song. Yeah. Like it's got this like, I don't know how to explain it. It just feels like it could have been like a Jefferson Airplane thing.
Yeah, it could feel a little classic Rocky, but I think that the way that they it sounds like pretty gothy, spooky 80s music, you know, which is kind of what I love about it. And like they really locked into that. And I think that they did a good job with that. So that's where this one's coming from for me. It's a spooky song.
I totally agree. I mean, they're a spooky band. Like it's like them, Susie and the Banshees, Joy Division, New Order, Bauhaus, like that whole like era. I mean, it's goth. It's like where that was like 80s goth. Although the album cover for this is not spooky. I think they're trying to be spooky. It doesn't last as a spooky album cover. Like just
no, it doesn't.
Pirates of the Caribbean or something.
Yeah, like oddly lit cave, but then in like this bright white canoe for some reason. Why in a canoe, guys? Why are you in this cave in a canoe, but wearing some suits? What's the story here? Maybe they got lost trick or treating.
They probably did. That's what happened. See, it wasn't the plan.
It's like that Garfield Halloween special where they get in the canoe to go get candy from the other side of the river, and then the river takes. You guys don't know. I
missed that episode, but good for you. Was that watched in the Astro?
Oh, for sure. I've watched that. Wait, dude, Halloween specials. I got VHS tapes. I got the receipts.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, but that's my contribution. Echo and the Bunny Men, Killing Moon. You'll recognize it, Tom, when you hear that one. It's gonna be a good one.
I'll definitely check it out. Well, obviously, because I'm gonna have to. It's the next thing I'm nervous about.
You got to sequence. You got to work on sequencing.
It's been very rare that Donnie has approved.
I've approved of some sequencing.
A couple you've been a little bit nicer.
You know what? The best sequencing was the Lucky 13 episode. The Unlucky. That was the best sequence.
No, it wasn't. Sure. That's because it's the one that you did. That was not the best one.
That's the one that I did.
I think Ron so far, best of 87. I think he killed it.
What?
I have to share something with you, Rod.
What's that?
Because your Canadian guest, I forget her name.
Jess.
Was it her that got after Rod for F-bombs?
Yeah.
Donnie is way worse. Way worse.
Absolutely not.
Way worse.
No fucking way.
Is this my turn to lean into it? Yeah, Donnie, what's your deal, you potty mouth? Your mom listens to this.
She does.
Something came up about AC/DC with my wife, how much she hates AC/DC. I'm like, I got to play you a clip from the episode this week. And I forgot how much it was like, fucking AC/DC, fucking hate him, fucking. And my
period ever.
And she's like, who's that? My wife was like, he's someone who's saying a lot of words that you shouldn't be hearing. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna turn this off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I didn't even realize, like, damn, dude. Like,
they're terrible.
We're some potty mouths. We just are.
I feel like the worst was when your sister was on, which I find interesting.
She was swearing a lot?
No, you were like extra.
Showing off for your sister.
No. It's just a complete distaste. Total distaste.
I digress.
Whose turn?
Okay, my turn?
It's your turn, Tim.
Where to go? I'm going to pull out one that definitely would probably never get stolen, but because it's kind of a obscure one that there's not much to it happening, but I think it's worth talking about is Hide and Seek by Imogen Heap.
Hide and seek, trains and soaring machine, catch me around here.
Whoa, I haven't thought of Imogen Heap in a while.
You guys know that song though, right? It's the vocoder. Well, it's not actually a vocoder. It's actually a Digitech processor harmonizer. It's just, there's not much to it. It's very sparse, which to me, I think is what makes it an amazing production, because I mean, the fact that song can keep a listener's attention for 4 minutes, I think it is almost 4 minutes. And it's just her a cappella, granted through processors and stuff that make her sound super cool, but just the way she develops, like, because there's also, from researching it, there's fan theories that it's about the divorce of her parents when she was young. I think when she was 12, they got divorced. And she's never like confirmed or denied that. In fact, she actually was quoted saying, where is it? It's full of color, but it's colorless. It's full of meaning, but it has no meaning. It has so much for you as the listener to identify with and fill in the gaps. I just think that's awesome. Like, yeah, I never, up until this, I never really even paid attention to the lyrics. It's just her voice and just the way it is processed through that, what we'll call a vocoder. And then just moments where like she just like crescendos and there's just like a reverb tail and like a delay tail. And then it just comes back really quiet. It's just beautiful. It's just a beautiful song. And like, I think it deserves mention because it's maybe something you wouldn't think of when you're talking about production, because it's like it's just her and a vocoder, but like it's just so cool.
I think that specifically leans into production.
Yeah.
Well, it has to be really well done. If that's if that's all you're going to have in the song, you have to do it just right in every way.
I think that lends to how good that is.
Exactly. That's why I wanted to pick it. And like,
good call.
I was also reading about how the whole story of why it even happened was, I guess her production computer, like the power supply went out at it or something in the middle of her making that record, making that album. And she just started playing around with that while someone was like fixing her computer, and they started recording it. And
could you imagine, like, you're a fucking Geek Squad dude from Best Buy and you like pull up to fix their computer and it's like, what are you working on? And that's what's being recorded in the background.
She said that it felt very self-indulgent for her. In fact, people in the studio were also saying, oh, it's cool, but it kind of needs something else. It's kind of too sparse. But then she sent it to a friend of hers that was like, this is the most amazing, genius thing I've ever heard. You better put this on the album. And then it ended up being the biggest track on the album.
A lot of her music outside of that was already sparse, though. I mean, there's a lot of her stuff that's just like a drum machine and with like really cool, interesting patterns. And then maybe like a tiny bit of other instrumentation. It's been a while since I listened to her. I dated a girl in college for a while that was really into Imogene Heap. So if there was a while where I listened to a lot of it. So I've definitely heard a lot, but it was great.
And she's all self-produced. Like, I don't think there's any record of like producers working with her. Like, she is the producer like that.
She does all kinds of really interesting stuff too. Like, I don't know if she's recorded any of it. I think she has, but she invented those gloves.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like she's like a doctorate or maybe multiple ones. I don't know, but she invented those gloves that like translate her movements and her different things into music. Yeah. And she does all that stuff, which is wild. Like she pushes like electronic music or what electronics, I guess, in music can do. Like she pushes that forward. It's really cool.
Yep.
Have you ever seen those, Donnie? Those gloves?
Yeah. I'm looking at the picture right now. That's the background of her Spotify.
Yeah.
And now that I'm seeing that, I remember having seen that somewhere. So yeah, I'm definitely familiar.
Yeah, I don't know that. Cool. I think she had a hand in inventing them, or invented them herself. I'm not really sure, but if other people helped with it, then credit to them too. I'm not an expert, but
that's awesome, Roderick.
Oh damn, it's all back to me already. All right, I'm going 1979 Supertramp, Logical Song. Underappreciated band in my opinion, but this album Breakfast in America is an incredibly well-made album, and the song is representative of that. Heavy keyboards in this band, but they don't come off sounding like a new wave band or like I don't know, it's like post Beatles pop kind of stuff. Do you guys know this song?
Yep.
Or do you know Supertramp at all?
I know little Supertramp. I definitely know the song.
It
feels very Styxy.
See, I think that's what they get compared to that stuff a lot, and I think they do it so much better. Like, I mean, Styx is fine, but this is that genre of kind of classic rock. But they do it at like the top level.
I mean, you can't say they do it better than Styx. I mean, for Christ's sake, they don't have robot operas, but you know,
but they're not trying to write operas. They're writing pop. They're writing like pop rock songs with a lot of keyboards. Styx is trying to write something operas that they can go perform on Broadway.
Yeah,
basically.
Well, at least, dude, there was this one time where Styx is from Chicago, and like I had a friend that was a friend of a friend who was friends with Dennis DeYoung's kid, and like we were at some kind of bar or something like that, and they was like, "Our Dennis DeYoung's kid is coming. We're just gonna hang out with us." And I just did nothing but make Styx puns like to everything that we were hanging out, and he was fucking over it, and he was pissed. I was like, "Hey, come sail away with me over here to the pool table place," and it's like, "Fuck, dude," he was pissed. I thought it was fantastic, but I mean, it was an homage more than anything.
This band too, dude, I don't feel like people talk about them that much, but they had so many hits. Like just this album had this song, had Goodbye Stranger, which is an awesome song. Take the Long Way Home, which is a big song between me and my dad growing up. Breakfast in America, people don't know the title, but that's the Take a Look at My Girlfriend. She's the only one I got that Gym Class Heroes like sampled later. Yeah. That song That's just on this album. Then on top of that, they've got like, I don't know, Bloody Well Right, Dreamer, and stuff like that. Give a little bit. Yeah.
Keep singing, Rob.
These guys are awesome.
Yeah, I think it's a great call. Heavy. What is that like keyboard sound, Tim? What's the keyboard sound?
The one in that song, or
just in general, like that early 80s keyboard sound, like a synth keyboard.
Yeah, it's probably like a Yamaha. There was that really popular, like,
let me down, Tim. You're supposed to fucking know the model name.
I know.
I think that's why I like this one so much, though, Donnie, compared to those other bands, is because it doesn't sound. I don't know what they did. I don't know if it's the way they layer the guitars and the way the drums sound, or if it's just the songwriting itself, maybe that comes out better. But it doesn't sound so electric to me, electronic. Like they are keyboards. It's not piano. But yet there's still something about it, except in the parts where they want to. Like there's parts in the song where they intentionally bring in some like computery sounds and stuff because they're, they're referencing being overly logical and things like that. So they lean into it during like the interlude. It doesn't feel cold to me. And sometimes I think the like heavy keyboard music comes off sounding really cold.
Mm-hmm.
Bunch of late 70s, early 80s hunks in the band too. Great feathered hair.
A lot of feathered hair, a lot of great
blouses,
great mustaches,
heavy blouses.
They're British, so they could rock a blouse.
Great call.
Yeah, Yamaha DX7.
See, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say Yamaha DX7, and I was just waiting for you to say it first.
You just wanted to confirm it.
Because like technology started coming out like in the 80s, and like everyone just like like Prince was obsessed with the Lindrum, which is that like
that first drum machine, right? Or like it was like the first one, I think, right? Yeah,
like everything, like almost every Prince song in that era, you hear that same like, and then you hear like other artists.
What a great vocal impression as well.
Like that.
That's good.
Yeah, very accurate. I knew exactly what you were talking about.
Yep. But yeah, like other albums in that era too, you hear that like same Lindrum sound, like it's just new toys, and they just like abuse the hell out of it.
Man, Donnie, I thought you would be more excited about Supertramp because you're my classic rock friend. You like classic rock.
I'm fucking down. I love it. It's a great call. We talked about how good your keyboards were.
Yeah, I feel like maybe I should have picked a different song, but I'm going to stick with the Logical Song. It's a good song.
1, 2. Am I on my third song already?
You sure are.
Holy shit. All right. I got 2 left. But if I do the 2 that I want to do, then I'm going to honorable mention one. Fuck it. I don't care. All right. I'm going Lana Del Rey, Video Games.
I say you the bestest, leaning for a big kiss, put his favorite perfume on, go play a video game. It's you, it's all for you.
It is a fucking musical work of art. And what's so bananas is that she started on such rocky ground. Like, do you remember when Lana Del Rey first came out? She performed on SNL before her album was out. Like, she didn't actually have any released music, and she performed on SNL before she had anything big come out, and was like, I don't want to say booed, but she was more or less like ostracized for not being that good. And then this production album came out. It was her first album, if I remember correctly, like first like acclaimed album, I guess.
I think it was her first album.
Yeah, Born to Die was the first album. And that album is just, every song on it sounds really fucking good. It sounds really beautifully produced, but Video Games is just like this strings, huge production of this whole song.
Harps happening and stuff.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've definitely given this album a spin for sure, and it sounds really good.
Beautiful song, and her alto vocal, like she does it, like she's not a very like high singing female, which I love.
You gonna sing for us or no?
No. I leave the singing to Rod on this one. Rod usually will come in with a vocal here and there for us, but no. But she is just this song is just fucking perfect. It's one of those ones that'll give you goosebumps on your legs because it just builds so hard, and like musically, it's about like just a person that you're fucking in love with. Oh, such a good song. If you guys haven't spent much time,
this whole album's and I intentionally sounds very lush, and it's like Southern California lushness and greenness, and I think that's why the album cover is the way it is, and her music videos were that way too, and they translate that whole vibe into the music, but without doing it in like rock or like pop style. Like it's
her
classic instrumentation and stuff.
Her videos look very like of the time, where the music sounds like it's up from a different time. Kind of her videos kind of have that same vibe to them,
but not like a specific time, just like the past, just like nostalgia as a time period.
Put, Rod, great job.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what some of her pushback was from, which is not fair to her. But I think a lot of people like hated on her for just trying to be like a nostalgia bait in music. But then she stuck to what she did, and I think she's much more appreciated now over time.
She's huge now.
Continued to put out good music, and I like her later stuff better personally. But I'll be honest with you, Donnie, I haven't listened to this in a long time. So maybe I should go back and listen to it, because I do remember this song.
Yeah,
and it is very different. It's very different. It's very, she built a lane for herself, really.
Yeah.
And I don't know who produced this, but they did an amazing job.
What's crazy is that I think that both albums came out in the same year, because there was Born to Die that was the first album, and then I think there was Paradise, and I could be totally wrong, but Paradise is the one that had Summertime Sadness on it, which was like her the big single. And then like it was like they took some of the songs from the release that didn't do that well, and then they put them on like maybe the bigger of the two releases that had like more momentum. There's something weird that happened in terms of like that
would explain why this album is so long on Spotify. It's like a double album, but that would make sense.
Yeah, there's something weird in regards to the discography. I can't remember what it was where they like changed the name of the album, but again,
your song choice is the better one though. That Summertime Sadness song, it's fine, but it sounds like Lady Gaga, but specifically her character in A Star Is Born, like singing. Like that's what that sound. Although to be fair to Lana, that came out before that movie, but that it feels a little more like centric, just baseline singer stuff. Video Games has like a very unique sound.
Oh, it's so good. God damn, is that a beautiful song?
Emily,
you know what? Hey, what'd you say, Sam?
Sorry to interrupt you, but Emily Haney, who was also a producer on the 24 Karat album, produced the Born to Die record.
Yeah.
So it's just, you see overlap, obviously these are big names that are working on these things, and they sound great for a reason.
And they know what they're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going to put this out there too. Real easy on the eyes. She is
on the original Born to Die. She looks like Emma Watson a little bit.
Yeah. Go listen to that and get goosebumps on your thighs.
Yeah. just on your, it only gives you goosebumps. That's what the harp does. It's thigh goosebumps. You don't get them on your neck or your arms, just on your thighs.
You're absolutely right.
All right, Tim, you're up.
So I think I'm going to pull in one of my audibles now, mainly because of something you said about, which is something I have in my notes about subjectiveness with production, that like when a production can kind of take you somewhere, like you just feel like you just get this sense of something from, like you said about the Southern California and like how it matches the album cover. And there's just something about the music just makes you feel that way. For me, a big one like that is Fields of Gold by Sting.
Feel her body rise when you kiss her mouth among the fields of gold.
Oh, fuck. Wow. Didn't think we would go there, and I'm so stoked we did.
It's such a good song. And like that,
totally.
The whole album, like I don't care for most of that album, but the whole album sounds fantastic. In fact, it's one of those things justified as I researched this, and it was, I don't know if it won or was at least nominated for like best engineered album of the year, whatever year that was that it came out. But there's just like, I don't know. And every time I hear the song, I just feel like I'm standing in this field. This field, like I could feel the sun basking down on me, and I could smell the barley in the field. And it's just, I don't know what it is, what they've done. I mean, it's a very simple production with just this pad string thing happening. But the star of the show, other than obviously Sting's voice itself and the performance, is that nylon string like classical guitar that comes in. And that thing comes back throughout the whole album, and just the way it's recorded and like the reverb that's on it, it just, I don't know. I can't explain it, but it just takes me somewhere. There's just a feeling it gives me.
I don't know that I have sat down and listened to Sting ever in my life, but as you're describing this song, it makes absolute sense. Everything you're saying is absolutely correct.
It's just a beautiful song.
It's a great song. And I everybody knows the song. I mean, Sting's just got a gorgeous voice. So you want his voice to shine, you know?
Dude, been active for so long. Holy shit, has Sting been around for a long time? Like, still relevant. Like, I mean, how long has he been doing it? When did he first start doing shit with the Police?
He put out an album in 2018 with Shaggy called Sting and Shaggy, or it's not called, it's Sting and Shaggy 44867. I did not know this.
Can't wait to listen to that one. I'm gonna go mosey to that one for Cody.
It's not like a they did a couple songs. They did an entire album together.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, Sting's discography goes back to 78.
Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, but I wasn't expecting Shaggy to come up on this thing, Tim.
No, sorry. I was still stuck on Donnie's question of how long has Sting been doing stuff. And Shaggy is definitely we're not expecting that one for sure. Yeah, 78 was the first release record.
Man, I can't wait to listen to that. Holy shit, there's 16 tracks on the Sting and Shaggy album. Man, I can't wait to listen to that. Well, how do you think that happened? What a cool album cover too.
I don't know, but he's on tour with Blondie right now. That would be a hell of a show.
Who? Shaggy and Blondie?
No, Sting.
Sorry. Sting and Blondie. Okay. Do you think that Sting was like sitting at home and heard It Wasn't Me and was like, "Oh, this is the guy
I got to get in on that.
I got to get in on this." Or he had Mr. Lover and was like,
"It was Mr. Lover." He's like, "I feel like I'm Mr. Lover." So
this is who I want to collaborate with.
Exactly. That in my mind, that's how it went down for sure.
Mr. Lover. No. I'm sorry. It wasn't me. Over 1 billion streams. Son of a bitch, man.
Insane. I know. More streams than this song. 3 times as many as this song.
It Wasn't Me has 3 times as many streams as Fields of Gold by Sting. That goes into like where we need to keep a running tally of things that we can't believe, like the million and billion seconds thing.
Yeah, but it's also like who's Sting's main audience and how much music are they listening to on Spotify compared to Shaggy's audience, I guess. You know, there's probably still a lot of CD listeners out there with Sting.
Shaggy fans.
You know, Sting, just real quick on the production side of this, Sting does strike me as the kind of guy who would make sure, especially with the solo stuff, that like he just strikes me as like as long as it takes in the studio to get exactly the sound and exactly the feel that I want, right? Like part of that's money, part of that's he's probably got the money or hell, maybe they just did this at his house because he's probably got a home studio. It could take 3 days. It could take 3 years.
Yeah. Gordon Matthew Thomas Sumner.
Is that Shaggy's real name? Or Sting's real name?
Great job, Rod. Well done. Whose friggin' turn is it? Let's get past Shaggy.
Oh, it's my last pick.
It wasn't me. Go ahead.
So this is my maybe more obscure one. I'm not sure if you guys listen to this artist. And there's a story about how I got to this pick, but I'm going with Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings. And I'm going with How Do I Let a Good Man Down is the song. So have fun writing all that down, Donnie. Do either of you know Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings?
No.
I don't think I'm that familiar, no.
So it's like, it was 2000s. So she passed away a couple years ago, unfortunately. But this sounds like, if you listen to it and didn't know anything about it, it sounds like it could have come out in 1974, just straight up soul music. They do a great job of sounding very authentic to the era that they're making. They're trying to make music to sound like, but it's really hard to explain. And I knew I was going to have trouble explaining this one, but it sounds both like it could be from 1974, but also definitely better than coming out in 1974. Like more clean, like more clear, more distinct, less like bleeding of instruments. But I know for a fact these guys record everything live in the studio at the same time. Like it's how they record music. So if one person fucks up the take, we all start over. Like they want that feel of like a live show, which I've always thought was awesome. When bands do that now, when you really, that's definitely not the most efficient way to record a record now by any means. You know, there was a time where that's how you had to record it. But where you guys probably actually know the Dap Kings from, which is the backing band, is they played all the music on Back in Black by Amy Winehouse.
Oh, okay.
It sounds like that.
Yeah. And so hers is a slightly like hip hopified version of soul music. And originally that's what I was going to go with, was actually, that's what led me here, was I was going to do Amy Winehouse. And then I've listened to Sharon Jones for years too. And it was, both of them are the Dap Kings. And I'm like, I just like how Sharon Jones stuff sounds better. Amy Winehouse is awesome. She's an amazing singer. And it's like that combination of like pop and hip hop and soul. But man, Sharon Jones, like her stuff sounds so good. It's like, there's a lot of these bands that try to do that. Like the Black Keys try to sound like whatever, the Sonics from like 1967 or whatever.
Pretty damn good job.
And they do. So? No, I think they do a good job. I think there's a lot of bands that do a good job, but I actually think that this band might do the best job of it, of it legitimately being like, this would have been like one of the best soul bands, like at all at the time. They just happened to be from the 2000s instead. This was like their biggest, by biggest, I mean, they weren't that big, but I think this was their biggest record. And this is just a good song. I had to pick one. They sound awesome.
Great call. Sounds rad. I'm excited to listen to more of that for sure.
She's got a hell of a voice too. Hell of a voice. You know, and it's got that thing too where like, I love in old recordings where like sometimes the mics weren't quite good enough, or like the equipment wasn't quite good enough to contain the power of the of certain vocals at a time. And they kind of allow that to happen at times where like, you don't have to allow that to happen with modern equipment, but sometimes it feels like her voice just like overdrives a little bit, right? Or like, I don't know, you would know better than me, Tim, what's happening there, but it's like, it's like clipping out, or it's doing something that's creating that distortion.
Yeah.
In the audio,
somewhere in the audio is distorting. Could be the preamp, could be the tape. If they recorded on tape, it could be, you know, a lot of different areas of. But
it sounds so good because we're used to, because we've trained our ears to hear that in like James Brown songs or in like garage rock from the 60s or whatever the genre was, and they're kind of letting some of that stuff bleed through, and I really like it. It's really good. So yeah, check it out if you haven't. It's and the last thing I'll say is they kind of kicked off. Not just them, there was other bands, but they were part of this like neo soul movement that kind of kicked off that now has gotten even bigger. You know, you got like St. Paul and the Broken Bones and Duran Jones and the Indications and bands like this that are actually like getting pretty big now, doing this like neo soul kind of a sound. And this was like the first wave of that in the early 2000s. So props to the Dap Kings and to Sharon.
I love it. All right, I'm going to go with another. It's my turn. Yeah. Yeah. Me.
Yep.
Okay. This one blew my mind as I started to research it. And I think we've talked about this song a lot, but this is where it belongs in terms of the conversations we've had. And it's got to be X Factor by Lauryn Hill.
To give surprisity. See, no one loves you more than me. And no one ever will. Yeah.
Yep. She wrote and produced this herself, which was kind of mind blowing to me just because of like the Fugees lineage, and to know that she now started to do some of this on her own. And not only that, but it's a 5.5 minute long song. And it's just like, I think that everything about this song has so much weight. The lyrics have weight. The production has weight. Her vocal has weight. Her voice feels heavy in this song based on what she's talking about. It's pretty simple in terms of like musically. There's not a ton to it. It's mostly just her vocals. Like she layers a ton of her voice, or she layers a ton of what she's saying in the song. And like there's a really soft, like pretty mellow piano line. There's not a whole lot more to this, but it is just like, as I was going through this stuff, and I'll talk about one of my honorable mentions, which is so funny because we'll get to it when we get to it. But like, as soon as I like kind of dug into this a little bit, I was like, this bumped anything else I had on my list off my list into the honorable mention, because this has to be on there because it is just such a fucking great, well-produced, simple, beautiful song.
Nice. Yeah. She was definitely on my long list. Maybe not necessarily that song, but Lauryn Hill in general was kind of someone I was originally putting on here for sure.
Such a good drum sound on this. song. Probably this whole album too.
So simple.
Well, I mean, it's either real drums or they did a great job of sampling. You know what I mean? Like it's either actually played for the song or they just sampled something that sounded very live. It's definitely not a machine. It sounds like really sludgy in a good way, almost. Like it's very cool.
Yeah. I mean, we've all heard the song 1,000 times. It was a single off the album. It was one of the 3 singles off of the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. And it sucks that Doo-Wop That Thing is still the bigger of the songs. I think X Factor is still so much better. But I mean, I guess I get it. And then, like I said, it was one of the 3 covers off that. But just that is hands down the best song on the album. Nothing else is even close. It's so good. Like, I love the fact, like, so this came out in 1998. I think was the year that Miseducation came out. Yep, 98. And like, I miss a 77-minute long album. Like that album was over a fucking hour long. And I miss like that lineage of music that we grew up in. There's fucking 16 songs on this album. Like, when we were coming up, it wasn't uncommon to have an hour's worth of music on an album, you know? And, and I don't know. I mean, I guess
attention spans.
Yeah.
Well, the art of the album kind of just went away. Anymore. I mean, I think it's starting to come back a bit, but it just went away. It just turned into shorter and shorter albums and singles. Yeah.
And the single has to be catchy within the first 10 seconds or it's not going to, you know, I mean, I think that's the cool thing about where things have gone with the industry is the fact that the 3 of us can make an album tomorrow if we wanted to and put it on Spotify ourselves, you know, like that also means there's a lot of horrible, like uncurated music out there also. But the fact that it's like, I don't know, it's kind of a catch-22, I feel like, with what's happened to the music industry. I think it's really cool that artists can just self-release stuff, but you know,
things go in waves too. And those waves manifest differently, maybe based on technology. But Donnie, you and Shane and I were just talking about that. Like this week, Shane texts us about how many amazing, like, female pop artists there are right now and how good they are, like the Olivia Rodrigos, right? And the Taylor Swift and stuff.
Songwriters, like how many good young songwriters there are right now. Like I hope that we're transitioning back into more songwriting.
Well, and they're putting out albums like Olivia Rodrigo is putting out albums that are meant to be listened to as albums. And yes, there's some singles that can be listened to as singles and be hits, but like she's putting an album together and like Taylor cares about the album and it's more than just pop. Like I personally think rock music is good. I think there's going to be another big moment. It's been a while, but there's some awesome rock bands out there and like it's a cycle. It happens. Like
you heard it here
there's going to be another
Roderick's on the tip.
I'm calling it. There's going to be another like Nevermind moment in the next few years.
We need it. We need it so bad.
There's just people are picking up guitars again and starting bands. It never went away, but even more so now. And there's just a lot of exciting things happening in like a lot of genres of music. I also think it's really cool that like indie rock or indie music has turned into like this like sponge of influences. There's like all these like jazzy bands, instrumental bands can get big now. There's stuff that wouldn't have been popular at times, but because of the internet, they do blow up now. So it is a catch-22. It gives an audience, it allows more obscure music to be spread and find a wider audience, but it's also hard to find. It's hard to get going because it's so saturated.
Yeah.
All right, Tim, last pick of the whole mixtape.
Last pick.
Oh man.
Pressure.
So this is why I wanted to go last initially, because I had a feeling that I would be able to kind of like cater my pick just because I'm also thinking about the mix. I'm also thinking about the tape and like how this is going to like, there's songs that I feel like maybe deserve to be, and I'll use honorable mentions. That's what honorable mentions are for. Right. Because now I'm going to change up again and going back to the Sharon Jones stuff, how you were asking me about like the distortion and stuff. The very first song that I thought of when Donnie and I talked about what topic we're going to do was 1956. I Put a Spell on You, Screaming Jay Hawkins.
I put a spell on you. Because you're mine. Oh, yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. First off, oldest song on a mixtape yet, for sure. And that is a great song.
It's fallen down to my honorable mentions because like
Wait, that's not your song?
No, it is. I picked it up. I'm sorry. Before I decided to audible it in,
it was going to be an honorable mention.
Yeah. And it fell down that way because I just felt like, oh man, like when we talk about perfect production, like, is it a perfect production? No, but there's elements to it that make it perfect in its own right for its own time period. I mean, it's in the 50s, you know,
perfectly imperfect, would you say?
Yeah. Like, I mean, when he yelled, I mean, there's a reason he was called Screamin' Jay. Like, I mean, when he screams on that song and you can hear whether it's the ribbon mic or the preamp or the tape or the tubes, whatever, it's just like, I get goosebumps every time. Like, it's just amazing how that came. If it would have been a perfectly clean recording of him doing that, where he yells really loud, like, it wouldn't have the same effect. It wouldn't feel like, that was horrible. I'm not going to try it for us, but it wouldn't have the same production value to it. And I wonder in 1956, for one, were they like, oh man, that sounded bad, it distorted, or two, like they didn't even know any better because it was so early on in recording. Or if they were like, well, that's fucking cool. Like the way that distorted right there. Yeah. You know, I just wonder like the minds of the recording engineers and the musicians and everything at that time, what they thought of that, you know.
You also wonder how much stuff is just happy accidents. Cause like when you like listening to this again right now, the parts that aren't him screaming, he sounds really far away from the mic. And I'm wondering if that's because they know he's going to be screaming. So you have to add distance there, but that distance on the softer part, they're not soft, but like the non-screaming parts, that adds to kind of the spookiness of the song a little bit. It almost is like there's a guy in the corner over there, like telling me he's going to put a spell on me. Like, what is that? Like it legitimately, like it feels like there's distance there and you can hear the like room reverb there too. And it like adds like a total like ambiance to the song. It's like, is that intentional or is that because,
who knows? Right.
You know, the way the mics are set up and he's got to stand back because he's going to scream and they've got to like, can't blow everything out. But
yeah, because this was so early on. I mean, obviously this was prior to any sort of like 4 tracks or, I mean, I imagine this was probably recorded on tape, but it could have even been straight to vinyl. I mean, being 56, I mean, so point being is there's not really a whole lot of multi-tracking going on. So yeah, I guarantee these guys were all in the same room and they had to place the instruments in certain spots and you get a mic and let's move Screamin' Jay back here because he's going to get really loud and he's probably going to bleed into this. But you know, I mean, there's just a lot that goes into recording in this way. And that's the only way they could record back then, you know? So I don't know. It's just, it's more of a pioneer than what I'd say is a perfect production, but I just think it was a good mention for this time.
I think that's perfectly okay. I think that's kind of makes it appropriate. And I mean, what does perfect even mean? You know? So I think, God, just hearing him get like when he screams at multiple parts in the song for sure. But when he actually does the "Because You're Mine" part. Yeah. Oh my God. What a hell of a voice this guy had.
Yeah.
He put out an album in 2023.
No way.
Yeah. He put out an album in 2023 called "Because You're Mine."
Really?
Yeah.
I guess I didn't look at how old he was.
Well, when he's still alive.
It's a lot of remasters, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely him.
No, he died in 2000. It's just re-releases.
Well, then it's just re-releases, but it came out in 2023.
Well, and to that point though, Donnie, like, I mean, when I was doing some research on this originally, like, I mean, it is like number or whatever year it was that Billboard did their like best songs of all time. And it was like number 300 of 500 or something like that. It was, I mean, this is in the list of what Billboard magazine calls like one of the best and most influential songs of all time. And, you know, we mostly hear it in like commercials and stuff these days. I feel like obviously we're not jamming Screamin' Jay Hawkins, at least most people aren't. But I mean, it is definitely an iconic song. I mean, anyone, you play 2 seconds of it, just that beginning intro with that dum, bum, 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 you know, it's like, you know that, you know, from a movie, from a commercial or whatever, but it's sticking around, you know, it's not going anywhere.
It's also on the Halloween Fiesta playlist with Michael Jackson Thriller.
Are you on trick-or-treating this year then, Donnie?
And other spooky, scary skeletons is on there as well.
More trick-or-treat music. Yeah, more trick-or-treat music.
It's a heavy trick-or-treat playlist mixtape.
That's got a new topic now, trick-or-treat playlist.
It's a pretty heavily covered song too. Like I know CCR did it and Nina Simone did it. And I'm sure a bunch of other people did it. Who else? Annie Lennox.
Oh man, I would love to hear Annie Lennox's cover of "I Put a Spell on You."
That sounded sarcastic, but I think you were serious.
No, I was very sarcastic.
Oh. I mean, Eurythmics have a spooky vibe too, a little bit.
Annie Lennox.
All right.
Honorable
Damn.
mentions.
This is a diverse one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honorable mentions. So I had a couple that I was going to feel comfortable if I needed to go to. So one of them was Aaliyah. Are You That Somebody?
Oh, fuck.
Produced by
Great job.
Timbaland. What the crazy beat on that thing, the baby crying, the like
We talked
weird,
about it in the backpack rap episode.
yeah, the beatbox thing that goes on there, but all not distracting from Aaliyah being amazing, you know, just and that kind of launched his career, and then his career like launched so many other producers. Like Pharrell's talked about how influential Timbaland was and stuff. So, and I think that was his first big hit, but that would have been a good one. And then I have a few others, but I think the one I just talk about him too much, but Devil's Haircut by Beck, like that whole Odelay album by the Dust Brothers, though. I mean, that's a production masterclass. Like the mixture of just samples and instruments that they put on that thing and all the different, I don't know, it's just nuts. That whole album is nuts. So those are my honorable mentions. What about you, Donnie?
So I keep putting this band as an honorable mention, and I'm going to do the Menzingers again.
Do it again.
And they haven't made their way onto a mixtape. And this honorable mention is After the Party, because there is no song that will transport you to a party the way that this song does. Like literally the way it feels as a party is ending, and like the image, like the painting picture that he does within this song. It's fucking fantastic, and it sounds so good, and it sounds like it would be exactly what you would listen to as that moment is happening. And I call that perfect because again, it's the perfect picture. It paints the perfect picture. So again, Menzingers make the honorable mentions list again. Still haven't made it onto a mixtape, but continue to make honorable mentions.
Always the bridesmaid.
Always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
What do you got, Tim?
I have a bunch I want to ramble off, if that's okay.
Yeah, list them.
Well, so my fourth pick was originally intended to be Jesus of Suburbia, Green Day. But I just felt like this Screamin' Jay needed to make an appearance there. Bohemian Rhapsody, Queen.
Oh yeah, that would have been good.
Rod's favorite, Radiohead, Karma Police.
Jesus Christ.
Well made.
Glory of Love, Creator Katera. You guys know that song.
Do I?
Probably do.
You gonna make me sing it?
Yeah, sing it.
Karate Kid 2. I got even better.
Oh, fuck yeah. I know. Peter Cetera. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Yeah, I probably pronounced his name wrong. Yeah, dude. I mean, come on. It's
perfect.
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
I heard that as Gloria, like a woman's name.
Oh, Gloria Love.
Gloria Love. And if you type Gloria Love in Spotify, there's a musician named Gloria Love.
Yeah.
So
I just thought that was, and there's a cool story too. That was right after he left Chicago and everything. This would have been on my list for sure, but I wanted to play the whole, even though this was within our mixtape, I didn't want to pick any artists from previous mixtapes because
you can't yet. I mean, we're only 14 in.
Yeah.
You can technically, but it's best if you don't. But
when we fall asleep, where do we go? Billie Eilish, that album is up there.
Oh, yeah.
With the Random Access Memories Daft Punk album, as far as I'm concerned. That album sounds phenomenal. And the fact that her and Phineas, produced it, recorded it in their bedroom. I mean, granted, they had I forget the mix engineer's name right now, but they had a very real, so to speak, mix engineer mix that album. And I'm sure a real mastering engineer, there was a lot of help on the back end of production to that to make it sound as good as it does. But still, just the songwriting and the way that things were produced. And I mean, that guy's just kind of a genius with the stuff he's been writing for her. And so that's a big one. The last one, and then I'm done, which I couldn't put on because I think it was on, I forget which episode it was early on, but Break Stuff, Limp Bizkit. That album, whether or not I was never a huge Limp Bizkit fan by any means, but that album sounds phenomenal. Like it's like Terry Date, who did Pantera, and he did that record with them, and it just, if you put it on and crank it up, that was early on enough into the what year did that come out? Was it 90s?
I've never really thought about the production of a Limp Bizkit song, but now you're making me think about it.
That song specifically, it and the drum beat comes in. The snare, if you listen to the snare is tuned. Like the tone of that ring of the snare drum is tuned perfectly in the key of this. That wasn't an accident. Like the production that went behind that album is, it's Limp Bizkit, so a lot of people don't take it seriously, but it sounds good. Like they put a lot of time and money and effort into that album, and I think it's at least worth an honorable mention.
Yeah.
Oh, oof. I feel like we have to at least tie this in just to save our butts so people don't get mad. But A Day in the Life, Beatles. Like when I was telling my wife about my pick, she's like, how are you not going to mention the Beatles?
I can't believe we haven't had any Beatles songs on here. I've had Beatles on my long list a couple times. Oh, you're right. Lucy in the Sky, didn't we?
Oh, you did. That's right.
That's right.
Okay, well, there you go. That's another reason why I wouldn't have done it. To me, that's
anything off of Sgt. Pepper's could have been considered but
it's another like pioneer thing. Because I like listened to Sgt. Pepper's today because I was like, yes, I remember.
Oh, it's definitely not perfect by any means, but they were pushing the boundaries.
Imperfect.
Yeah,
but like what George Martin and the Beatles were doing in 1967 for that album was just unheard of, and so it's a pioneer thing that definitely deserves a nod for sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
maybe that'll be a different mixtape sometime, like pioneering songs that left a big wake or so. I don't know. We'll figure out a title. Hey, Donnie.
Yeah.
You want to read the mixtape?
Yeah, let's fire out the list. Give Life Back to Music by Daft Punk. When You Were Young, The Killers. Finesse by Bruno Mars. Don't Cry by Jay Dilla. The Killing Moon by Echo and the Bunnymen. Hide and Seek by Imogen Heap. Logical Song by Supertramp. Is that right? Logical Song?
Yep.
Okay. Video Games by Lana Del Rey. Fields of Gold by Sting. How Do I Let a Good Man Down by Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings. X Factor by Miss Lauryn Hill. And I Put a Spell on You by Stephen J. Hawkins. Tim, that
Screaming J. Hawkins.
Screaming J. Hawkins.
I wrote Stephen J. That's probably why I couldn't find him when I started looking for it.
Who's the Stephen fellow?
That is going to be a wacky one to sequence.
It's just a wacky one. They're my favorites, though. They're my favorite mixtapes. Are the ones that are all over genre-wise.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tim,
so
I sent
good.
you the old track listing there. So send me back your sequencing, and Rod will build that beautiful mixtape for us.
I will build that beautiful mixtape.
Build that beautiful bean footage.
How to make a mixtape.
Hey, Tim, happy Father's Day and happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy Father's Day and happy birthday.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you for having me on.
Everybody.
So much fun. I'm glad we were able to make that. I told Donnie, like, I think after episode 1, like, low key, I'd love to be on the show, but no pressure. And every week I've been like, come on, Donnie, ask me.
We had to have the right theme.
Is episode number 15. So, you know, it's still early on. You made the early cut for sure. Yeah. And you know what? We're proud to be your first podcast that you listened to. And now you're on it.
Exactly. First one listening to and first one guesting on. So
strongly suggest, Tom, that you go back and listen to 60 songs now. 60 songs that explain the 90s.
I'll try.
Yeah.
Not a big fan.
You've tried and you're not a fan.
We've talked about this.
Yeah, I know.
We won't get into it, but I'll give it a shot. I'll give him more of a chance.
Start with the Celine Dion episode, or start with.
I did listen to the nod to Selena here. I did listen to the Selena Quintanilla episode, and I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah,
because it was a different vibe of how he was approaching it.
Yeah,
I didn't feel so much like I was being talked to about the artist. It was more. I don't know. I'll give it a shot.
Give it a shot.
For what it's worth, I enjoy your guys' podcast better.
Hell yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Take that, Rob Harvilla.
Take that, Rob Harvilla.
We'll take it.
Cool.
Well, thanks man. Appreciate it. This was a good time.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for taking the time.
No worries. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.